Hello and welcome to the latest episode of our Riedel Central Talking Head series. Now I'm joined today by a very familiar face on the channel, Mr. Thomas Riedel. Thomas, you were one of the first stars of our Industry Drivers series a few years ago, and we've caught up with you many times over the years, but a lot has changed since that first appearance for Riedel. The company has after all grown to encompass now more than 700 employees. But today we're here to find out a little bit more about the man himself. So, Thomas, looking back over the events of 2020, what was the biggest challenge for yourself and Riedel, and how did you manage to overcome that?
Well, I have to say, we went through that time so far relatively well. But the biggest challenge really was last year when, in a pretty early stage, we had to make a decision to let some people go. And that in my career was the very first time I had to go through that phase and get to such a decision. I would say that probably was my biggest challenge.
You have a lot of important decisions that come across your plate. When you're considering those decisions, do you typically think with your head or with your heart?
Well, it's typically a combination, and I think that's what it should be. Never switch off your heart and never switch off your brain. I mean, both is needed. And as much as I always say balance is important, it's also a balance here between the right emotional and feeling part, which comes from your heart, and your brain, which tells you about numbers and facts.
And if you could go back to any point throughout your more than 30-year career in this industry, would you choose to do anything differently whatsoever?
In smaller decisions, I would definitely say yes, because sometimes you make decisions and later on you find out it wasn't that spot on. But in the big decisions, no. My decision to go into radio business very early on was the right one. In the next step, to start going into intercom was also the right decision. And then later on, to develop a full new intercom technology based on decentralized structure has proven to be absolutely the right decision. But also going on the side of making the decision to move into this large facility here in Wuppertal, where we bought this old industrial facility and converted it to a modern technology place, was also the right decision. And by the way, that came more from the stomach than my head, because the head would have said, no, never do that, it's way too big. But basically, my feeling told me, well, it's cool, let's do that, and has proven to be right.
If you could go back and talk to yourself when you were, maybe late teens or early on in your career, would you ever have thought that this is a position that you would have found yourself in today?
No, absolutely not. I've never had this master plan to build this and become such a big company. I mean, I always had ambitious plans and I wanted to, have a name and a reputation in the industry, but that we would become the #1 player in that field globally, with being involved in so many high prestigious projects, I never thought of. I mean, it is great to be in that place today, and we enjoy it. At the same time, it's a really big responsibility, but I never thought of that. And I think a good portion of luck brought us here.
Also, as the company continues to grow, you must find it harder and harder to choose where to focus your own personal time. How do you make that decision?
Well, that's probably also coming from feeling more than really my head. I typically jump into areas where I see gaps in areas where it is about opportunities, but also gaps in a way that I feel that something has to be done, and I'm jumping in there. But there's at the same time a good amount of time I spend on the strategic thoughts. Where is the company going overall? And I like to spend time to stay in touch with the industry, whether it's industry partners we have, clients, suppliers, but also competitors. There's a number of people there I talk to regularly, or other players in the industry which are not competitors. So generally, networking is one of my big topics, and I like that, and I feel it's very important in the overall game.
Nowadays, though, how hands-on are you able to get with the kind of real nitty-gritty R&D in the company? Are you pushed out by, the experts in your engineering departments, or are you still allowed to contribute a little bit?
Well, if you ask my guys, they probably tell that I'm involved too much in some areas. And I should just go and manage the company. But I'm still involved in quite a number of details, and I'm interested in the details. Sometimes I would say it's a bit too much, and some people say I tend to do micromanagement. But in some areas, I believe it is important to make the details right. Because if you look at the products, some of our products, you would exactly say it's about the details. And some of them I claim I had my influence in. But I also have to say we are a group of very, very experienced people here. So it's not about one person, it's about a great team under the bottom line.
IBC was postponed again till December. That would have been a show that you'd have been at. So are you really beginning to miss the trade shows and the physical aspect?
Oh, absolutely. No NAB for a second year. That's certainly something I miss absolutely. I would have loved to have IBC in September. Certainly will be at one in December. Not absolutely sure whether this is the right time, to be honest, but we will be there, that's for sure. And what I really miss is meeting people.
Overall, what has been the greatest achievement or the proudest moment of your career?
Well, there's a couple of things, but one big topic which pops in my mind as the first big thing, and that's basically the team we have collected over the years and bringing all these great people together. That as the one big thing as an achievement over 30 plus years, I would absolutely name in position number one. We have a group of people here which is so passionate about everything we do, about the technology, about the events, about our products and the brand. And we are also proud to work under that umbrella globally in so many spectacular events. That I would absolutely name as the number one. And certainly under that headline, you can see many smaller achievements on the product end, for instance. I mean, Bolero Wireless is probably the most successful product if you look at the 30 plus years of Riedel, because it has become kind of the dominating wireless intercom system in the market over only 12 months or so. When it came to the market, it became the number one product. When we entered intercom, very early on, we already focused on doing a decentralized intercom system. Well, from today's point of view, you would absolutely say any system is decentralized because that's also the nature of all these IP infrastructures. But keep in mind, we brought it to the market in the year 2000. No one was talking IP at that time. But we set up an intercom solution which was already around networks. And so it was a networked infrastructure. And then let's make a jump to 2009 when we launched the MediaNet product line, which also was ahead of time regarding IP, but was already something which gave all the features or most of the features you expect from IP setups today. There's a number of achievements around technology and products I could name. But again, overall speaking, it is our team, which is just fantastic. And I enjoy working with these world-class people.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really glad that we could do a little kind of update. And I'm hoping that we can once again have a chat when the industry has fully returned back to normal and there's none of this pandemic talk or anything like that.
Thank you for having me. And looking forward to see you all at the next big trade show coming, whenever that is. Again, IBC is now moved to December, but let's see.